Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our webinar today about the HEC MBA program. My name is Patrick Glasgow, and I'm the Digital Recruitment Manager for the MBA program at HEC Paris. And joining me today is my colleague Jennifer from Careers and two of our current students. Yeah, I'll let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, everybody. Jennifer. I'm a Career and Corporate Development Manager with HEC. Look forward to speaking to you shortly.
And Anu and Philippe, if you also want to introduce yourself.
Sure. So hi, I'm Anu. I am an MBA student from the class of 2020, specifically from the J19 batch, which means I started my MBA last January.
I'm Philip Hasulis. I'm as well from the class of 2020. I as well started in J19 from last year as well. And I'm from Montreal, Canada.
Okay, great. So we'll be holding a Q&A session at the end. So we kindly ask that you save all your questions until after we finish. All right, thanks. So I'll be sharing our presentation with you. Let's see. Okay. Sorry. So just a little background about HEC Paris. We're one of the oldest business schools in France. We were founded in 1881. We have over 4,400 students enrolled on campus each year. And we offer different degree programs, including the MBA, the Master's, PhD, and executive education. We're consistently ranked in the top 5 business schools for graduating alumni who end up becoming CEOs of Fortune Global 500 companies. And so we're really looking for tomorrow's business leaders. We know that when searching for MBA programs, rankings are very important. So here are some of our rankings here. We're very proud to be in the top 10 in all of them. And so I encourage you to kind of do some research on each of these rankings because each one is based off of different criteria. So kind of focus on the ones that relate most to your personal interests. Here is a quote from our Dean, Andrea Massini: "Diversity is our richness, community is our strength." So at HEC, we really embrace diversity. That's why 94% of our class is international. And they're not just coming from different parts of the world, but they're also coming from different professional backgrounds. So we have doctors, engineers, designers, lawyers, etc. So all throughout the program, you'll be hearing different opinions and perspectives, which kind of adds to the MBA experience. All right, so here are some key figures of our MBA program. So the duration is 16 months, and we have 2 intakes, one in September and one in January. In the visual on the left, you'll kind of see where our students are coming from. So it's a truly international environment. Our average GMAT score is 690, but keep in mind that this is just an average. We have students scoring lower and also higher, so it's just an average. Our students usually have 2 to 10 years of work experience, so an average of 6. And also they're ranging between 25 to 35 years old, just to kind of give you a rough idea. Okay, so where is our campus located? So our campus is located around 17 kilometers from Paris in a small town called Juin-Josas. It's a really big campus. There's over 300 acres of land. We have a chateau, we have a lake, we have a lot of sports facilities. We have hiking trails or running trails that our students can do. And so it's a really big campus, and it's really not that far from Paris. I used to commute every day from Paris to campus, and it would take as little as 30 minutes by train. So it's definitely accessible. One important thing to note is that HEC Paris is in the Paris-Saclay area, which is home to France's best research institutions, high-tech businesses, and startups. So if you're part of HEC, you kind of have access to those resources. And also, we're a member of Station F. So it's one of the world's largest startup hubs. It's in Paris. So if you're into entrepreneurship or tech, that would be a place that you would definitely be going to or learning more about. Okay, so here are some pictures of our lovely campus. So the picture on the top is the main MBA building called the S building. That's sorry, that's where you'll be doing most of your classes. And then in the bottom two photos, you see our chateau and also kind of a bigger picture of our campus, including our lake. So it's really peaceful and quiet. It's a great place to kind of make lifelong, lasting relationships with your classmates. Okay, so on campus, how does it look like? We have a variety of professional, cultural, and leisure clubs. So before the quarantine, the Japanese student club had a Japanese week. So they had like Japanese fan making and also a temaki sushi making class. There was the American and Canadian clubs that did giving dinner. There was also the Retail and Luxury Club that did an MBA trek in Paris to visit all the top luxury companies, including Chanel and Pernod Ricard and Hermes. And so there's always something going on, and student clubs is a great way to kind of be involved and to network and to meet different people. We also offer on-campus housing, so we kind of save you the trouble of having to find housing, which can be really stressful, especially in Paris. And just to give you a rough idea, around 80% of our students are living on campus at least for the first 8 months, so the first half of the program. Okay, so how does our curriculum look like? So as I said before, it's 16 months. It's divided into 2 phases and 4 terms. So the first phase is called the fundamental phase. So this is where you'll be building your core business skills with a hands-on learning approach. And so you'll be taking different classes such as managerial economics, strategic management, negotiation workshop, etc. And the second phase is the customized phase, and that's where you'll hone your skills and kind of further develop expertise in the field that you're interested in. So you'll be taking electives, you'll have the opportunity to do an MBA project, you'll have, you can do an international exchange at one of our many top partner universities, and then eventually you'll choose a specialization. So a lot of times I get questions from prospective students asking like, oh, what if I'm interested in 2 subjects? That's perfectly fine. What you could do is you could choose a specialization, for example, in finance, if you're interested in that. And if you're curious, maybe in marketing, you could do electives in marketing, and then maybe even do a certificate program if it's available in that subject. So we kind of offer a lot of opportunities for you to kind of explore whatever you're interested in learning more about. So one of the really cool things about our program is that we offer a lot of leadership training outside of the classroom. So one of my favorite ones is called the MBAT, which is basically kind of like an MBA Olympics. So it's a 3-day multi-sport competition where over 1,500 students come from the top business schools around the world, and they compete together. And the cool thing about this is that it's completely student-run. So as part of the organizing committee, you can be in charge of the financing, the logistics, the marketing, the operations, all of it. And what's interesting is that last year, our budget was around 500,000 euros. So it's a really big, it's a large-scale event, and it's a really great way to kind of get some hands-on experience managing a big event like that. I encourage you also to look at our other tech and also outdoor leadership seminar on our website. We have more information about that if you want to learn about them. Okay, so because many of our students are wanting to live and work in France and Europe after graduating, we offer a lot of opportunities to immerse them in the French culture. So starting from day 1, there are free French classes available to all students on campus. We also have a lot of French companies or French CEOs coming to campus to kind of teach students the French way of doing business, and also, kind of more of the French mentality. We had the CEO of L'Oréal and Kering recently, not too long ago. We also have the French Connection Club, which is a student club that's basically French students who want to share the French culture with foreigners. And so they did a wine and cheese event, which is always a hit with everyone. And there was also an escape game at the Louvre Museum. And so I'm telling you, by the end of the program, you'll practically feel French. You'll be eating croissants for breakfast, and you'll be like, what was I before? So yeah, we offer a lot of opportunities to really get a feel of how the French life is. So one thing that kind of also differentiates our program from others is that we offer a more personalized MBA experience, and the strength of our MBA network is really big. And so our class size is under 300 students, meaning that it's easier to build bonds with your classmates. And so it's a very supportive environment, as students like to help each other out by sharing their expertise and their professional network. So let's say you're interested in consulting. We'll have other students that are coming from consulting backgrounds. They'll share, kind of what they did in the past, and also even put you in touch with some of their contacts in that field. And then you can, do like informational interviews, etc. And so it's yeah, it's a nice atmosphere to be around, knowing that you kind of have the help of your classmates, and it shows, if you see the stat at the bottom, around 10% of our MBAs got their job through their classmates, which I think is really cool. Okay, so our application process. So we have a rolling application deadline. So it's happening every month, usually at the beginning of the month. And our application process is pretty quick. So before beginning the application, we really strongly encourage you to connect with your regional recruitment manager by filling out our online Connect with Us form. They can kind of give you personal feedback on your profile, give you tips and advice on the application, and even invite you to any events that may be happening in your region in the future. And so after doing that, whenever you're ready, you can, submit your application, and then there'll be a pre-selection jury that will take a look at all the profiles, and then you'll have 2 interviews with our alumni. We choose our alumni to hold the interviews because they're really the best ones who know what we're looking for in our students. After that, there's the final admissions jury, and then you'll get the official notification within 5 weeks of submitting your application. Okay, so our total tuition fees are 72,500 euros. That's covering the whole 16 months. Just keep in mind that that's not including accommodation costs. And so when we kind of talked with students and we asked them to give us an estimate, they gave us around 25,000, including housing, food, social events, etc. But we know that this is a lot of money, but that's why we're offering a lot of scholarships. So around 1/3 of all our students receive some kind of scholarship. Our biggest one is called the HEC Excellence Scholarship. So it's a merit-based scholarship, and the award amount is up to 50% of the total tuition. There are other scholarships such as the Laureate Scholarship and also the Forte Scholarship for women. So we have a full list of scholarships on our website, so feel free to check that out, and you can apply to as many as you want. Okay, so now I'll kind of hand it over to my colleague Jennifer, who will kind of give you an overview of what the careers department is doing and how they're helping our students.
Hi everybody. Careers, it's of course a very important part of your MBA experience. The HEC Careers Centre is made up of about 40 people, and we are here to accompany you throughout this journey. Careers do count, activities within the Careers Centre do count for credits, which you require to graduate. So we treat it we give it a lot of importance right from the beginning. So, as I said in the introduction, I'm a Career and Corporate Development Manager. What does that mean? That means that I'm one of 9 people who actually work to craft your career journey. That is putting together workshops, bringing companies on campus, and also providing you with one-to-one coaching, the one-to-one coaching experience. So that's what I do, 9 people like me. Within the department, we also have a team we call the Employer Engagement Team, and these people are responsible for bringing companies on campus, which is so important. So we had I think on average, we have about 250 companies that come on campus every year, so it's a lot. The employer engagement team organises career events such as career fairs, which are held largely, they start in September and run through till March. So the big push for MBAs is from the beginning of September onwards. First week in September being MBA Career Week, a week which is dedicated to helping MBAs find the companies that they have the best matches with and starting the whole application and interview process. So one of the things that we do as part of my role is we put together a curriculum which is centered around 3 key themes. These themes are know yourself, which is largely about self-assessment, trying to work out what your real skills are, what are your ultimate skills, the things that you are good at and you like doing. So important to know your ultimate skills when you're trying to think about your next career move. The second big thing that we build workshops around is know the market. You need to know about the market for consulting, the market for marketing roles, the market for tech or finance, depending what area you've chosen. Obviously, you're not going to try to know about all of those areas. And we will have workshops again to help to fast track you so that you get to know those markets even faster. And finally, of course, match yourself to the market. You need the skills to be able to get that role in consulting or to get that role in tech. And in match yourself to the market, we will give you access to interview workshops and interview skills, pitching skills, and in particular, the very important links to the HSC alumni. And as you probably know, the HSC alumni is one of the most powerful in the world. You know, one thing to keep in mind is that when you joined HSC, you're coming in as an MBA, sure, but HSC is a lot more than the MBA program. The MBA program is one of our flagship programs, but we also have the best Master in Finance program in the world and the #1 ranked executive MBA program in the world, according to the Financial Times in 2019. So keep those things in mind, because it's that having the combination of these programs is what makes HSC such an exciting place to learn at and to be a student at. We can look at the next slide, Patrick.
Sure.
Yeah, so the next slide is just about internships. And I know, because I'm seeing students on a daily basis, of course, and just perhaps one thing I'd like to mention about the whole career coaching element before we talk about internships is you need to understand that you will have a dedicated career coach with you right from the beginning of your journey. That career coach will check you in and will work with you throughout the year, but you also have access to other coaches during the process. We started this check-in process with our class of 2020, and we think it's a great way of really building up a rapport with our students and assisting them the whole way through the journey. So that check-in, dedicated career consultants, I think it's an important part of what we offer. And every consultant has a background you will indicate an area that you're interested in, and you'll be matched with a consultant who has a background somewhat similar. For example, myself, I have an MBA from the European Business School, and I worked for 12 years for L'Oreal in international marketing, 10 years in Paris, 2 years in Australia. I am Australian. And following that, I worked for an investment bank, Macquarie. So I have a banking and an international marketing background, and I have colleagues who have similar backgrounds, but in different sectors. So not exactly similar backgrounds, but have also have expertise in the sector in which they're advising their students. So just on internships, for the class of 2019, 60% of the class did do internships. The internship period, it depends, of course, when you decide to join us. If you join us in September, the internships can take place from May to August or from January to May. If you decide to join us in January, those internships can be from July to August or January to May again, and they can take place, of course, anywhere in the world. It's great, of course, to do an internship, but it's not everything. So if you don't do an internship, you can also use the time to learn French, to travel, or do something else. So we've listed just below some of the companies that students do get internships with. Amazon, of course, have a huge internship program that leads onto their pathways, or consumer launch program, L'Oreal, PepsiCo, Johnson & Johnson, and together with many, many more companies are offering our students internships. So the statistic up until now, 92% of our students have been employed within 3 months after graduation, with an average salary package of around $128,000 US. So some statistics. We know that, some of you will be able to make this very famous trip, what we call a triple jump, where you change sector, function, and geography. It's a big thing to do. 39% of our graduating class last year did manage to do this. The different locations that our students managed to go to or want to go to, 27% found roles in Europe, 34% in France, 18% in Asia, and you can see the other stats are there. So 70% changed function, which I think is pretty impressive. 82% changed sector, and 64% changed location, which is huge. So they're all some indications of the great transitions that you can make following an HEC Paris MBA. And on the next slide, again, we have examples of some of our big recruiters. So the consultants, of course, the big percentage of our students do go into consulting, and we have the likes of McKinsey, BCG, Bain, Accenture, and then the big four, Deloitte, PwC, are all big recruiters, and we place great importance on preparing students to enter into consulting. But that's not to say we're not also building our students for profession to enter Google, to enter Amazon, and many of the other big tech companies, consumer marketing companies, and the luxury goods sector, of course. Companies such as L'Oreal, LVMH, the Richemont Group, HEC is very well positioned for that luxury sector as well, in particular being centred in Paris, which is the heart of the luxury industry. The other industry I'd like to mention is the healthcare industry, because it's really a dynamic one at the moment. Just last week, we hosted a fantastic Careers in Healthcare event. There was so much optimism in the air. The companies are hiring, they're looking for talent, and they're not fussy about visas. Really, it's an incredibly exciting industry, and if you haven't already given it some thought, I would urge you to consider the healthcare industry. As you can all imagine, that industry really needs people right now, and there's so many exciting opportunities there. So I thought, just to bring things to life a little bit for you, could be good to really talk about and have a look at the career journey of some of our past students. So I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about the journey that Avanish Pandey, who's an Indian student, who was an Indian student who graduated in 2018. Let's look at his journey and how he got to his final destination. So he had a background, his academic background was in business. He did a business degree in India with a specialisation in marketing. His first role was in the telecom industry as product marketing and go-to-marketing manager at Bharti Airtel. When he started, of course, he had all the initial career workshops which help you with all those self-assessment tasks, and at the same time help to build your CV, help to ensure that you have a finely tuned CV before you go any further. Now that CV I'm sure Avanish did do some work on his CV as he progressed, but he would have been working very closely on it at that point. Then Avanish would have had his first, wasn't called a first career check-in then. We can look at the next slide, Patrick. But he would have met with a career consultant. That is now called a first career check-in, and that process is now more formalised since Avanish took part in the program. He then attended the Careers in Consulting event, which comes very early and is designed really to fast track event to give students very early on a look at the consulting industry, to meet people who are in the industry, to understand what they have to do to be able to work there. He then attended 7 different corporate events. When you're a student at HEC, there are constantly companies coming on campus. There are always posters on the walls of companies coming. Avanish went to 7 of these. He then took part in the consulting case cracking sessions, which are very, very important and very well organised. Case cracking being a very important step that anybody who wants a career in consulting has to go through. He then went through a series of mock interviews before achieving obtaining an internship with Schneider Electric, and finally joining Deloitte in the Netherlands as a senior strategy consultant. So that's a fantastic journey, and I think Avanish really made the most of what the Career Centre had to offer, but of course he made the most of everything else that was going on in campus as well at the same time to make that fantastic transition. Let's look at another student, Claudia Pinto. Claudia is from Peru, and she graduated also in the class of 2018. Prior to her MBA, Claudia worked in tech. She was a retail channel manager with a company called Inagram Micro, who were involved in the distribution of IT products. Claudia had a BA in business administration prior to her MBA, and similarly, she had her first career meeting, would have been held very early on after her initial career introductory sessions. She then attended the Marketing Fast Track, a session which is organised, delivered by external consultants. We bring in some of the career events are animated by Career Centre, but often we also bring in expert consultants, some of the best consultants from around the world, to animate these sessions. Claudia attended the Careers in Marketing session, followed by a session on pitch and networking. And here I can't insist enough on these two skills, pitching and networking. Pitching is not to be left to the end of an MBA journey, but rather to be started on very early, which is why we put this workshop up front. And pitching as well, extremely important, because you are going to be meeting alumni, making corporate contacts right from the moment you arrive on campus, and you need to know how to present yourself. Claudia then did an MBA project with L'Oreal. L'Oreal is a partner of HEC Paris. We have a privileged relationship with them. She then attended over 8 company presentations, and that was during the MBA Career Week, where there are up to about 18 companies come on campus during that week. She then went to a session on salary negotiation, and finally, she joined Amazon as a senior vendor manager in the luxury and tech sector in Mexico. So that's Claudia's journey, and I think that probably gives you an idea of the sort of transitions that are possible and what needs to be done to get there. I think that's all for me for now, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation from our current students.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm sure that was very insightful. So now we'll go ahead and turn it to our student panelists that are here with us. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen up. And then we'll go ahead and start answering questions from you guys. But before we do that, maybe Anu and Philippe, can you kind of give a little more about your background, what you were doing before, and why you chose HEC Paris to do your MBA program?
Sounds good. Do I go first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'm Anu, and like I mentioned earlier, I'm a student in the J19 batch. I'm originally from India, although I grew up in Southeast Asia, and I've lived in about 7 different countries up until now, so identity is a little diluted. By education, I'm an astrophysicist. and professionally, I have 6 years of functional expertise and work experience in data analytics and data science across 3 different industries. I kickstarted my career in Google, so in technology. Secondly, I worked for a consumer goods company in Germany. And thirdly, in the space of non-profit, at my own startup that I founded most recently before I actually came to the MBA. My largest motivation, like my biggest motivation to actually like up and quit and get an MBA was driven by the experience that I had with my startup. I felt I had to learn like proper business fundamentals, and so that was sort of the motivation to do an MBA. And the reason why I chose HEC Paris, actually not just reason, but specifically I would say 3 reasons, probably in the order of priority, would be that firstly was the length of the program. The fact that 16 months long was a perfect trade-off for me in terms of the kind of value and experience that I would get from the program, as opposed to the opportunity cost that it actually, it means to have. Secondly was the size of the class. And that was a big factor because I think, so my batch is about like 117 strong. And I can confidently say that I have met and spoken to each one of my batchmates and probably, increase the chances of sort of developing meaningful relationships with a large portion of them. And the third big reason why I chose HEC Paris was the fact that it was a generalist school. It was my intention to come and experience an MBA that was not just concentrated in one industry, but I wanted to explore different industries and different functions and kind of see where I fit in and what would really catch my fancy at the end. And I think in all 3 factors, like in hindsight now, because I'm like almost at the end of the program now, I think it worked perfectly for me.
So for myself, I began, I suppose academically, I have undergraduate in software engineering. From there, I moved on to do IT implementation for a large IT firm across North America. I then moved to a much smaller company where I was helping with international expansion and strategy, particularly in Europe. And so as the experience was growing and I was getting more knowledge, I really want to accelerate that career path. And so I began looking at MBAs. And I should say particularly caught my eye for, I would say, 3 strong reasons. I think the first might be a bit more specific to myself, as I'm from the French-speaking part of Canada. So I knew quite a lot of people who went to that school and made that connection. So the French culture was kind of a little bit instilled in me. Secondly, I would, the diversity part really spoke to me. I think I should say it's a truly diverse experience, and and looking at it in hindsight, it really delivered on that aspect. So that was something that was very important to me. And then thirdly, I would say the length as well. So agree with Anu. Other programs were, I think, a little bit too long for what I was looking for, others too short. And so the 16 months and the structure of the curriculum particularly was something that I could identify with and sort of easily visualize my career path and transition moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for sharing that. So maybe we can go ahead and start answering questions. So please feel free if you want to ask a careers question. Jennifer will be happy to help, or one of our students, Anu or Philippe. Okay. So is online teaching the permanent approach all universities are set to adopt in the upcoming years? As an international student, a major aspect of choosing campuses abroad is the classroom training and campus activities we hope to participate in. If there is a shift in the methodology of teaching, it can be a hindrance to our personal growth. So how are universities planning to tackle this issue? Okay, so I can answer this one. So the president, Macron, what he said was the higher education institutes will be open starting from September. So we are expecting to be fully, open in September and to be welcoming students. Of course, there's going to be safety precautions that are being taken in place, and the government is going to kind of specify more on that, I'm guessing throughout the summer. But as of now, we're not expecting to be fully online. In September, you will have the option to continue doing online if you want in September, but I'm pretty sure that there will be classes happening in person from September. But again, we never know what will happen. Next question. Okay, maybe this is one for Jennifer. Coming from a consulting background, I would like to know how the HEC Paris MBA program prepares an individual to grow up the consulting corporate ladder.
Okay, I mean, first of all, you need to enter into the consulting market and to get the job before you move up the ladder. And we do a lot to help you to get there in the first place. As I mentioned, the careers in consulting, there's a career peak week, which is a week dedicated only to consulting, bringing in people experts from all the big consultancies who will talk to you about that, about how you can grow and move up a firm and what the different opportunities are. But as I say, first of all, you need to get in there and you need to be very, very strong on the case cracking to have a go at it. And you also need to practice what they call a fit interview so that you have what the consultants are looking for, which is a lot of problem solving, curiosity, and analytical skills, and the ability and willingness to work very, very, very hard. So I guess moving up in any organization, the rules are pretty much the same. Well, the idea is pretty much the same, being able to show leadership, communication, and management skills. But I would concentrate first on getting in there because it is competitive.
And just to add one thing to what Jennifer said is that also, let's say if you're interested in consulting, you could join the student club. So we have a consulting student club and they organize MBA treks with the careers team. And so I know in the past, the consulting club organized an MBA trek to Dubai to visit all the top consulting companies there. And so that's also a way to kind of get exposure to that field and to kind of hear how those top companies are working and the kind of cases that they're working on. Okay, next question. Will the HEC Paris increase the cost of tuition for applicants for the class of September 2021? As of now, I don't know that answer. It's 72,500 for both September and January. I'm not sure for the next September. So I can't answer that, sorry. Okay, for an international student outside EU, how difficult is it to get into investment banking post-MBA in HEC Paris? Will local language play a crucial role in it? I think, Jennifer, also maybe this is a question for you.
Yeah, sure. The thing with investment banking is to enter into a role in investment banking, it is very helpful if you already have a background in finance prior to your MBA. So I'm not going to say anything different. I know that is what the consultant who is responsible for working with the students looking for careers in investment banking will say, is that you need some sort of background in finance to be able to enter that market in Europe in an M&A team, for example. And local language, yes, it is important. You would need to speak the local language if you wanted to work for, let's say, for BNP. Société Générale do have an internship program, and they will take people who don't speak French. But again, they would be keen on. It could be you could have a legal background and have worked for a legal firm that has a strong financial focus. That would also work, or have done a finance major in a previous program, or some sort of finance background is important, I would say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a bit of a probing. Can I ask if the rest of the students opted out of the internship, or if there were external circumstances that kept them from securing one? So maybe Anu, Philippe, you guys can answer this. Did you guys do internships? Did you know of any students who didn't do it, and what did they decide to do if they didn't? Whoever wants to go first.
Philippe, would you like to go first?
Yeah, so for myself, I did not do an internship, and that was a personal choice. I just chose it. My summer break was 7 weeks long, and so naturally finding an internship that fits within that period is quite tight. But yeah, I know others who did not do it. The 6-month internship is a standard one. A lot of people do from January to May. Some of them, it's a lot because you might be doing an internship while as well doing, some elective electives, and so it becomes a lot. And so they can make the choice themselves. I think it comes down to really a personal decision. I don't know if any different.
Yeah, I think I largely agree with what Philip actually said. So I also chose not to do an internship, and I had a couple of reasons for that. So firstly, when I came to the MBA, I knew I wanted to get into consulting, and I had a plan laid out for myself toward that end, right? And I wanted to actually use my summer specifically to get better at casing. And I figured that 8 weeks of internship probably didn't add as much value as my case prep, would do. But again, this is a personal decision, and it worked for me. But I do know others who have done an internship over the summer, like a short one, and also have done an internship, doing one actually now from January. While I'm no expert on it, but I mean, I can see a trend. I mean, like typically people, like students here do internship if they want to explore the industry, or if they want to, explore a function or an industry or the geography that they're looking at. Does that answer the question? Patrick?
Would you like me to answer that question, Patrick?
I think he's a little frozen.
Yeah,
he's a little frozen. I can answer that question. I mean, we don't secure the visas or the sponsorship for you. That's the companies who will secure the visa for you. So if you don't have work authorization in the European Union, you will need a company that is open to sponsoring and who will secure that for you. It's not, HEC Paris doesn't secure the visa for you. But a lot of companies are open to securing the visa, so it's not, I mean, it can be an issue, some won't, but then again, there are, depending on the company policy, because it does seem to come down to that, there are companies that are very, very open to it. I would say it depends a bit on sector and the company needs as well. For example, in the tech sector, there is a big need, and companies are very open to sponsoring visas. In the health sector, they're also open to sponsoring visas. However, in fast-moving consumer goods, for example, if Procter & Gamble or Kraft Heinz, they don't sponsor visas. So yeah, so you just need to keep those things in mind.
Okay, sorry guys, I'm back. I had some technical issues. Sorry about that. So we have a question. Is the school planning to delay the start of the September 20 MBA intake by a couple months, similar to INSEAD and other European MBA schools? Will this have an impact on future intake starts as well? So as I said before, according to the French government, we're set to open in September. That might change. We don't know what's going to happen, but as of now, we're planning to have, to operate normally. Of course, it won't be normally. There'll be safety precautions, as I mentioned, but it will be open starting from September. You do have the option, maybe. So what's nice is that we also have a January intake. So maybe if you don't want to start in September, you can start a couple months later in January. So we are not going to delay the start of our September intake as of now. Can we go to the next question? How much international experience really matters in application evaluation? Does it give decisive advantage to you? So I can kind of answer this one. So we really value international exposure just because you're in such an international environment throughout the MBA program. So it's really great if you can bring different ideas and opinions to the program. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have lived abroad. It could have been that you maybe studied abroad, maybe you did a project abroad, maybe you had like some kind of experience working with international clients, maybe you did a volunteer for a couple weeks somewhere. And so it can be a bunch of different things, but it's something that we like to look for in our candidates because our program is very diverse. Okay, for students, what is a typical day of an HEC MBA student? So I know
I take this one
or
first. Yeah,
whoever
okay.
wants.
Maybe we alternate.
Yeah,
here,
we'll
so
alternate. Yeah.
Okay. I would say actually this question is really good and also very personal. I would say break it into two different parts, right? Like firstly, my schedule during the first 6 months, and that is during the core phase, was very different from what it was like when I was doing the customized phase, right? Like when I was doing the specialization and electives. So when I was in the core phase, my weekdays are typically spent in classes, and that can start anywhere between 8 and end at 4, or perhaps even later. And then right after that, normally there are meetings scheduled. So we work in groups here. So you have group meetings, or you're working on projects or assignments. And Fridays or Saturdays were normally set aside for workshops, either organized by the Career Center or even like the student-run clubs that actually organize events. I mean, outside of all this, you would, we still had a lot of cultural events and leisure club activities that would happen on the evenings. So as you can imagine, this is a true test of, time management and prioritization. So that was largely, I think, my schedule during the first 6 months of the program. During the specialization phase and the other 6 months, I would say 50% of my time was devoted to like sitting in class and finishing assignments. And there was a shift towards like job hunting and actually actively, getting my motivation letters ready, like networking and filling out applications and anything that had to do with job hunting actually. So I would say that's how my schedule was kind of split. Sorry, Philip?
Yeah, so I won't elaborate. I think you captured the first 6 months. And just to show an example of the second 6 months, how it can really differ based on your schedule, I would completely agree. You do a split between classwork and career efforts, what is motivation applications. But just to illustrate this, I had, for example, an elective that was a 3-day intense course, but it took place in Berlin. So Monday, Tuesday, I had a lecture from 9 to noon, came back home, application, motivation letters. Thursday morning, took a flight to Berlin, did 3 days of lectures, then came back morning for more lectures. And so that's a very unique experience depending on the courses and the schedules that they offer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so just to add to what they were saying, you'll have 4 days of classes, and then the Friday will be really dedicated to career planning. So you can do mock interviews, CV workshops, case cracking, or anything that you'd like to work on that last day. Okay, so how's the COVID crisis going to impact the way the next batch at HEC is taught? So yeah, we're seeing a lot of these questions. I know it's a big concern for a lot of people. We're obviously going to be doing a lot more things online now. We're going to continue to offer online classes, whoever is interested in doing those. I'm sure the way it's going to look like is there's going to be a limit as to the number of students we can have in a classroom. And in terms of the cleaning and the hygienic measures that we're taking, there's going to be change over there. But I think that, we're really going to start doing things more online as well, just for everyone's convenience, so that not everyone's all in the same room, because I think it's going to be a while before there can be a really large group of people in the same room at the same time. So in the meantime, we're really going to take advantage of online master classes, for example, or online Zoom meetings, or stuff like that, online materials to teach the courses. Okay, so question for the students: how hard is the day-to-day living in Paris if you don't speak French? Philippe.
I speak French, yes.
Okay, sorry. So I know.
This person.
Yeah, so I actually, I've stayed on campus the entire time during the MBA. So I actually didn't live in Paris, but I have been in multiple situations where I've lived in a country or even here where I actually don't speak the language. And my philosophy towards that sort of stuff is that you learn the language, you come out having learned the language, and you do have the opportunities here that actually get you to learn it. I mean, it is, the way I see it is that you kind of respect the people and the culture, and you're putting in a little effort to integrate, and that can mean the world of a difference when you actually want to truly enjoy the experience. So that said, I got to only A2 in French, because that's all I could. I mean, that's as much time I could devote towards language learning. And I was quite fine. I mean, I can speak basic French. I can get by. I can have a very basic doctor and bank conversation. And for anything else, there's always Google Translate for me, and that's how I managed. Yeah.
I think that what I hear a lot of people saying is that if you at least try to speak French to Parisians, they really appreciate the effort, and the reaction might be a bit nicer if you at least try to speak French, even if it's wrong or you make some mistakes. I think, in any place, if you try and make an effort to learn and speak their language, I think it's a more positive reaction overall.
Yeah, and just to say, at HEC, we do facilitate that process. There is a language resource centre with classes running, weekly classes, and many students participate in those language classes run by the Language Resource Centre, and they're continuing on in this period.
Okay, so what are some of the key differences between the January and September intake? What are the advantages and disadvantages of each? So I guess there's not a big difference between January and September. I think maybe Anu or Philippe, or you can answer that. Or what did you guys notice the difference between you and your peers?
I would say the one single biggest difference. Everything else I think is about the same. Perhaps just the specialization gets flipped in some cases with the electives. But the one biggest difference is just the alignment with maybe some career services and how because as Jennifer mentioned, I would say the career application process for a lot of MBAs begins in September. And so you just have, I would say, less time than someone who began in September. I would say that's the real main difference. That's what I would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd agree as well. Yeah, that, and I think to some students who have already have an idea of what exactly they want to do in terms of an internship, that sometimes changes the equation. I mean, if you really want to do the 6 months internship, it may be beneficial if you actually take the September batch. But otherwise, in terms of experience, it's largely the same.
Mm-hmm. How does the school view applicants from non-traditional backgrounds such as law during this pandemic period? I get the feeling that most schools are going for students with quant-heavy majors. So, that's a good question. We get this question often, and we really like to see, like I said, we really embrace diversity, and not just from which country you're from, but also from your professional background. So I think it's very interesting when you have a group of students that are coming from designer backgrounds, or someone who studied architecture or something like that, because they all bring in different ideas and they kind of help enhance the group experience or the project that you guys get to work on. So I think that coming from a law degree, I think that's great. I think that we'd love to see that at HEC Paris, because we're really welcoming to all professional backgrounds. What are the career opportunities for the students coming from family businesses as opposed to a corporate setup? So maybe Jennifer, you can
So
have you seen a lot of students that are coming from family businesses?
There are. I mean, there are. I wouldn't say there's a lot, but there is. There are a small percentage of students that do come from family businesses and then look at leveraging that experience to move on to a corporate role. It's perfectly possible, and often, having worked for family business, you've seen the whole thing. You've had a look at the not just the marketing or finance or tech side of it, but you've had the whole vision. And employers can be very interested in those sort of profiles, and particularly for consulting, because you often had to deal with strategic issues already in the family business. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think there's not, that doesn't limit in any way the possibilities. Again, what's really important when you go to the career piece is to think about what are your transferable skills. What are the skills that you had, that the things that you've learned from your past experiences can you apply to the next thing that you want to go to. Always think about what your transferable skills are, and they will change according to where you're aiming to land.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so another question for the students: the on-campus versus city living. What percentage of students pick each and why? Pros and cons. So, Philippe, this time maybe, if you want to start.
Yeah. So I just to give you, I lived the first 6 months. I lived on campus, and then I decided the rest of the MBA to live off campus, much closer to Paris. I would say between Paris and La Défense. The 6 months, I would, in terms of the actual percentage, I don't know, but this first 6 months, I think it's quite crucial. You develop a camaraderie, a connection with your classmates, and it's easier to spend time with them and create those friendships and those connections that will last you the rest of your lifetime. At the same time, there is an urge to experience Paris much more intensely, and so that's why I chose to live off campus. In which case, as you might expect, it's easier to have access to events, activities within, I guess, in the core of Paris. So they both have their merits, but a good mix of two. Honestly, it was a great experience for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, so I've lived on campus the entire 16 months of the program. I think much of what Philippe actually mentioned earlier, I largely agree with, and I would just add on to the one point that in the first 6 months, it does make it a lot easier for you to get to classes and keep a more flexible schedule if you actually lived on campus. And this means 10 p.m. group meetings or 8 a.m. classes, so it does make things easier. The reasons why I chose to stay back on campus were just purely personal, because I came here with a partner and also had 2 cats in tow, and it just made things simpler all around. Otherwise, I think I would have, if I didn't have the cats, I probably would have lived in Paris and experienced the fine of living here.
Mm-hmm. And you also have the option, Versailles also is not too far from campus if you want to get a change of scenery from campus.
True, yeah.
It's only 2 stops by train from Juillan-Josas. Just to
or a 15-minute drive, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, next question. Do you find many people having already started and built their own business coming to do the MBA? So I think Jennifer already kind of touched up on that. She did mention that we do see students coming, with backgrounds in family business. I don't know, is there anything you want to add, Jennifer, or I guess we've already kind of answered this one.
Yeah, I think we've already answered that one, but there are definitely people who come from who have their own business, who just want to take a break from the day-to-day running of their business and learn new skills, and then take those skills back to their business. Yes, we do see that. It's not the majority of students, but I always have a few students every, I've been with HEC 2 years, and I always have seen, a few students in that case. It's definitely something some people choose to do.
And if you're interested in entrepreneurship, there's Station F that I mentioned. It's kind of like a huge startup hub, and it's also like an incubator. And so if you join the entrepreneurship club, for example, I know they're doing visits there. They're kind of seeing how startups are starting their businesses. They're hearing about like different inventors, what they're doing and how they're kind of, their business ideas, etc. So there's a lot of exciting things if you're interested in entrepreneurship. Okay, so what steps have been taken by HEC in improving the woman ratio in the class? How effective are those steps? So as of now, we actually increased, the last year we increased by 2%. So now we're 34%. The ratio is 34% female. And it's something that we're really trying to improve. That's why we kind of did a partnership with Forte, the Forte Foundation, who really aims at kind of powering women who want to do the MBAs, and they offer them scholarships. They also kind of waive the application fee. So that's something that's been working out very well. We also have a Women in Leadership Club, student club. So I recently actually did a webinar with 2 of our students who are involved in that, and they're really taking a lot of different initiatives to really kind of support the female classmates, and also to organize, like, for example, networking events with companies that are, just with females. And so I would say there's been a lot of positive feedback on that. So those are just two examples, but yeah, we're definitely trying to have more women so we can kind of have more of an equal ratio. So that's something we're definitely working on. So what qualifies as an international experience for HEC? So I think I kind of mentioned that before. It can be a volunteer experience abroad. It can be a study abroad. You can be, maybe you had a project where you had to, there was an affiliation abroad. It can be any one of those things. It's kind of, any kind of exposure. Of course, it would be preferable if you could actually, if you were in that country, but maybe it could be in your country, but interacting with international people or societies or cultural groups or anything like that. Okay, so Anu, a question for you. Please, could you elaborate on doing the MBA with a partner? What type of opportunities, clubs, short courses, etc.?
Okay, so I see two questions there. One, I'm wondering if that's related, but yeah. So firstly, like doing the MBA with a partner. So yeah, I came here with my partner and husband. I think there are more positives than negatives in this experience, and I think I'd like to break that down. The thing is, like when I sat down and questioned whether I have to go get an MBA, there were obviously these questions that came up that said, "Hey, you go do it first, and then I do it," and taking turns, and and this also kind of comes back to the whole, how women look at career and they're investing in their development. And what really helped me back then make this decision was actually talking to a couple from an older batch from HEC. And it actually turns out that almost every year, like in every batch, there is a couple actually doing the MBA. Yeah, so which I find now really, really cool. And I'm glad I actually, we didn't alternate doing it. And there are certain challenges that actually come with it, because MBA means you are sort of in a you're in a tight schedule, and your partner is also in that schedule. So there are positives there where you get each other, but challenges in terms of like making time for yourself, and it does change like the basic social dynamics there a bit. But on the whole, it's been absolutely fantastic, and I would actually, and especially women out there who are considering and probably self-checking out, saying maybe no, let's alternate. I would actually urge you to consider it if it actually fits in your larger theme, of career goals. The second question, Patrick, I'm not quite sure what that means. Is it?
Maybe I guess they're wondering if there's any like specific like I don't know, clubs or opportunities, I don't know, events for couples or for partners. Okay. Yeah.
No, not that I know of, but I mean, we do have a partners club here, not necessarily the ones who are doing the MBA, but even like folks who are married and here live on campus, they have a partners club, but I'm afraid I don't know too much about it because I'm not part of it. Yeah.
One thing I'd like to add as well is, if you bring your partner, they have, full access to the campus, so they'll be given a badge. They will also be allowed on any events to come to any events that are happening. So I think that's kind of nice, so that they're not just stuck at home doing nothing. They can join you on a lot of events that you go to. So. Sorry, I meant in terms of one doing the MBA, but your spouse is not. Yeah, so like I said, yeah, so that they would have the opportunity to join the events with you, to go to the gym, to access the gym, the canteen, all of that would be open for the partner as well. Could you please elaborate more on the difference between MIM, so Master in Management, and MBA in terms of future career prospects? So, I think we get this question sometimes, and it's really depends on where you're at career-wise. So the Master Management is like a pre-experience. So it's more for candidates that are having between no work experience to up to 2 years work experience. So more likely entry-level jobs. Whereas MBA, you're kind of more in at least the mid section of your career, having at least a couple years, like 2, 3 or more years of work experience. And so the roles, of course, that you'll be doing are different. Whereas if I think that with the MIM program, you're more likely to do an entry-level job after graduating. Next question. I know we'll be wrapping it up soon, but maybe we have time. Okay, so all right, so that's it. Maybe is there any other like concluding remarks that you guys would like to mention before we go? No.
I don't think so. I think just use your do network to find out about different programs, and when you arrive at HEC Paris, don't stop networking, because that's 80% of people find a role through networking. So networking is extremely, extremely important in everything you do.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I strongly encourage you guys, we'll be sending hopefully a follow-up email to you afterwards with kind of a connect with us link. Feel free to share your profile on there. You can upload your CV as well. And we'll really be able to give you feedback on your profile, answer any questions, specific questions about your profile, and how to continue with the application. So we strongly encourage you to do that. And hopefully this was helpful for everyone. And yeah, good luck on your MBA journey. I've enjoyed doing this webinar, as I'm sure my colleagues have, and the students. Thanks for joining today, and yeah, good luck, and hopefully we'll see you on campus soon. Okay,
Bye.
see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.